So,
Sarah,
are
can
we,
you just
Jada, we
talk
get
a little
outside?
bit with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so that we can make sure we
I don't
can
know
hear
what to
you.
talk about.
You could just, what's your favorite song?
Any Kane Brown song.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Country girl.
Yep.
Didn't peg you for that.
I listen to a lot of different music, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
After.
After. I don't know.
It's
what
like
that
a
is.
series of a book. It was like a fan
Ah.
fiction, like a One Direction fan fiction, and then it got into like an edited version
Oh.
on like a real book, I
Yeah.
guess. And then there's a movie, and they're coming out with a new movie.
Wow.
There's like trailers and everything for it.
Cool. How's that?
right?
Sound good, Sean?
Yeah, I think so. Just make sure you're about like 5 inches. Or so.
She's soft spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit and tilt it closer to your mouth, or we kind of, is it okay with it kind of angled up like that?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Do we want to scoot it back a little bit and then angle it more towards your
We can try
face, or
that.
Uh-huh.
do we want to have it angled up kind of?
I've always been told I'm very soft spoken.
Yeah.
I've never been told that. Truly, I've never
Don't
been
want to go
told
too far
that.
back because if it gets too far
Yeah.
away, it'll.
Try that.
Okay. Just,
Take
you
it
talk
one more
about that.
Okay.
Movie.
Why don't you tell me what your favorite cartoon was when you were a kid?
Drake and Josh.
Drake
That's not
and-
really a
No, but
cartoon, but
same.
still.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Good old Drake and Josh. How's that?
It's still pretty soft spoken.
So just try to like
Talk a little bit louder.
Yeah.
Like that?
That's probably better.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a little better.
Yeah.
I'll try.
You can do it. I believe in you.
I've always been very quiet. Like when I was in the Marines, I could never yell, and they would like yell at me because I wasn't loud enough.
Yeah.
So it's a problem.
It's better than last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure you get close to 5 inches and
Yeah.
you should be good. Okay,
Yeah.
Jada, we
I'm
get
just
outside.
gonna hit record.
All right, so we're good outside. We're rolling out here. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to What Would You Miss? Today we have someone on who lost a very dear friend to suicide, and she's ready to share her story and how that affected her. So, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Sarah, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm going to preface this by starting out just a little bit about my connection to your story. I don't even know how it came across my feed. I think maybe her father reached out to me when What Would You Miss came out, and I was so impacted by her story. I'm going to let you tell about her, but I saw myself in her, and I still do to this day. You know, every time I get a message about her, someone tells me how fun-loving she was and how she loved to sing and she was out of control and, you know,
Definitely.
maybe a little bit of a party girl, and I could really relate to that. And I think those are the people that get missed a lot because they put on such a strong mask. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your very good friend, Sarah?
Well, I moved here to CNS 10th grade year, and she was actually my very first friend when I moved there. And I didn't really feel like I fit in with a friend group, obviously because I was new. But I knew from the start that she'd be a good friend because she was just crazy. She wasn't afraid to do like anything in public. Like she would dance, sing around, be so loud, and she wouldn't even care if people were looking at her. So she was just all around happy most of the time. So she was just good to be around.
So, you know, you guys grew into this great friendship for a couple of years. And did you see anything, any signs or anything before she took her own life? Or was it just a complete, were you blindsided?
It was a group of friends. There was like 3 of us. We all definitely knew she had mental health issues, and there was like self-harm, and
Yes.
she would tell us about it because we were her friends.
Now, first, I want you to know that her father, Riri, we'll call her
Riri.
that, her father has told me about her self-harm, and I can relate to that. You know, self-harm is not a form of suicide. It's not someone trying to kill themselves. It's somebody trying to release pain that is inside of them. The pain is so real. It's so intense. They want to see it. They want to feel it because, you know, you don't really feel emotional pain and you don't
Right.
really see it. So I like to just preface that. And anyone who is exhibiting self-harm, you know, there are healthy alternatives out there that, you know, everything from holding an ice cube in your hand until it hurts or taking an ice cold shower.
Right.
You know, when I was in my teens, I was a self-harmer, and my roommate would walk in and I would be doing like jumping jacks, and I swear she thought I was the healthiest person on the planet, but vigorous exercise was really good for me because it got my blood flowing and,
Right.
you know, it helped me not think about the self-harm. So I'm glad that she was able to share those with you, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it was scary as a kid to hear about self-harm if you didn't know about it.
Well, I went through the same thing in ninth and 10th grade, so I kind of was able to talk to her about it because I was going through the same thing. So it made it a little easier hearing
Sure.
it.
So there was a group of you that kind of saw signs, but you probably weren't really, aware that it was to that extent.
Right.
How did you find out about her death?
I actually didn't go to school that day because sometimes I just have those days where I'm just like, I'm not going to school. So I woke up and I look at my phone and there's like a bunch of people messaging me. And my friend, he was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I be okay?" And he was like, "Your best friend passed away." I was like, "What?" Like everything just stopped. I was like, "You're joking." Like I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Her death really rocked the community. Our local community was really affected by her death because of her vivacious personality, and they didn't expect it. And I think her story is very important to tell for that reason. And you probably, when you heard it, you probably didn't even believe it at first.
No, it was so hard to believe.
How do you think social media plays into all of this? Because I know that she was on social media.
Yeah.
Do you think that social media helps, or do you think it hurts? Like, what do you think is going on right now for you with social media?
I mean, before she passed away, I didn't really see anything about it, or not just her, but like in general. Like I never really saw like the What Would You Miss page. Like I never seen it before until then. And I don't know, people didn't really talk about it that much. But since her death, I've seen it a lot more.
Right. I do think that there is, social media can be really helpful in this respect. I think we can kind of show our emotions on it and we can share a story, and it does help. I think where it doesn't help is when, there's bullying and there's, intense moments, and those things don't help. And actually, What Would You Miss came out around the same time that she died.
Really?
And I think that's why it just kind of like erupted together. And, whenever we do share one of her pictures that, her friends like yourself submit, it blows up because people relate so much to her, and she had such an infectious smile.
Yeah, she did.
She did. So tell me some things that you miss about her. What do you miss about her? If she was here right now, what would you tell her that you would miss?
Her singing and her dancing. And in the hallways, whenever we would see each other, we would do like a little hand motion. It means I love you in Korean. So every time she would see us and her friends, she would do that. So,
It's hard when they're gone.
yeah.
How has her death affected you?
Because I went through like the same thing, I know where she was coming from and like why she felt like that, kind of. But it made it also harder for me because I was thinking, what if I actually did that? And I can't believe what her parents have gone through. And I also went through the same thing when my cousin Steven took his own life back in April. So having two people very close to me that I lost in a very short period of time, it was very hard.
So two things there I want to talk about. Do you think it's changed your perspective on your suicidal thoughts?
Definitely.
Because you would miss being here. What would
Yeah.
you miss if you weren't here, Sarah?
Oh, this is going to make me cry. My mom, definitely.
You seem to have a good connection with her. Yeah. It's hard when we think about the people that we love. But what about you? Like, what is something super unique about you that...
I can play a lot of instruments, so probably music.
Yeah, I love that. So the other thing to what you just said was you lost a cousin. How did that impact you? Because you lost a cousin in April and then
Yeah.
her in September? October. That's not a big time span to
No.
lose two people by suicide. How has both of those affected you then?
It's very hard. I didn't know Steven that well. He lived in Michigan, so I only saw him like 3 times in my life. But seeing the way it impacted my other family, it made everyone very upset, and it was terrifying.
So I think an important thing is that when you're gone, you can't go back.
No.
I think, and I hate using this sentence, but suicide is permanent.
Yeah.
And we forget that when we're in that moment. And, I can relate to everything you just said. We just were speaking to someone on another episode where we talked about survivor's guilt. And that is something that I think you may not even realize that's going through your head is, if you struggle and you've had those thoughts and then someone you love or someone very dear to you dies by suicide, there is a little bit of guilt, like that you're still here and they're not, and you can't even believe that you thought that way because of the pain that you feel. Are you getting help for what, goes through your head?
In ninth grade, I was undiagnosed until it got super bad. Like, I never went to the hospital for it because my mom took me to the doctors and got me a psychiatrist and a therapist before it got too bad. So I ended up being on medicine for it for like a year and a half. And then I weaned myself off because I learned different coping skills. And I think moving schools really changed it a lot. So I've learned to deal with it without medicine and without therapy.
And I think one thing you said there is really important, your mom.
Mm-hmm.
So how was it to tell your mom that you were having these thoughts and what was going through your head? How did you bring that conversation up?
She ended up finding, like, on my body the self-harm. And it was really hard at first because she didn't know how to react, so she kind of yelled at me. But she was disappointed, but also she helped me, and she was upset because she didn't know that I was going through that, and it was very hard. I kept quiet for a long time about it. Like, I didn't tell anybody, but she ended up talking to me about it, and it was easier to talk to her.
Right. And I think what's important for, people your age to understand is it's okay to, that first step, that first conversation is really hard.
Yeah.
But then after that, you do get the support that you need.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for a kid going through this right now that really does want to share it with their parents but is really scared? What advice would you tell them?
Definitely tell them, because if you don't tell them, it'll be way harder because you won't have the support system. And you think they might be like mad at you or be upset with you, but they'll be more upset if you ended up not getting help and ended up taking your own life.
Sure. So one thing I like to do a lot, and I think for you this will be a great question. If you could go back, knowing all of this, knowing about your your cousin Stephen and knowing about Riri, and how you felt through all of that, if you could go back and tell yourself something when you are in that moment, when you're really you want to hurt yourself and you're feeling really down, what would you tell yourself knowing all of this now?
It's not worth it. Like, it's not worth it at all, because all the things that you would be missing out and the people that you're leaving behind, it's really not worth it.
That's a really important sentence, because when you're in that moment, you do feel like it is worth it, and you don't feel worthy, and you lose that sense of hope. But the truth is, you are worth it. You're worth so much. How do you think that our school system is helping, like, get kids through all this, or do you think there's more that they could do?
There is definitely more than that they could do. Once Rihanna and another student passed away at CNS, you started seeing it, like, posters on the walls, and like there was a presentation for like a week, but it didn't really help. Like, some people like joked around about it and would laugh during the presentation, so I feel like they could definitely step up a lot more.
I think part of from what I hear from students is that they want to talk. They want a safe space to talk, and I think laughing is definitely not ever the solution. I think there could be a lot there. The person could be nervous. Maybe they're going through it themselves and they're trying to make jokes of it, but it's not funny, and that is something that we need to stop. And I think that goes to, all the jokes that you hear, and I know that you hear kids say, I just want to kill myself today. And do statements like that affect you now that you've been through all this?
Yes, very.
How do you feel when you hear somebody say that? And question, have you ever like said to someone, hey, that's not cool, let's not say that?
Yeah. Sometimes, like, when I'm with friends or like out in public, I wouldn't say just random people, but like people that I'm friends with, they'll say it. I'm like, don't say that, that's not cool. And then they'll realize why I said that, and they'll stop.
Right. And I think that's so important to be able to say that, because I know that adults flippantly say it too, and
Yeah.
I do try to call them out on it. And I know that people don't necessarily mean harm by it. It's just something to say, but I think we need to, change that language a little bit and make it a little bit more comfortable. Well, how do you think, you said you play an instrument, you play instruments. Have you used music to help you through all of this? Because I know that's something I used when I was younger. If I was angry, I played angry music, and if I was really happy, I used happy music. But have you used music to help you through all of this?
I used to play the piano, and I would play like songs, but I wouldn't say it necessarily helped me through it. but just listening to the music kind of calms me down.
Yeah, so it does help you a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, you talked a little bit about, your own issues and
Mhm.
things that you've been through. What would you want your mother to know that how you've grown through it all and how she's helped you? What would you want her to know about, your relationship with her?
If she acted differently, like if she wasn't as close to me or like kind of brushed it off or didn't help me, I probably wouldn't have gone through it.
Yeah. You earlier had talked to me about being able to really stay connected to Riri's family.
Mhm.
And I know for them personally, it's really important to talk about her story and to talk about her because, and I don't want to say it's because of her voice. We want her voice to live on. We want others to learn by it. Does that help you being able to connect with them and does it get you through it?
Definitely.
What are some things that you do with them to help you process?
With Rihanna's family?
Yeah.
I go over there. I went over there for Christmas. That was the last time I was over. And I kind of just sit in her room and talk to her family. Or they have this memory tree in their living room. And when her friends come over or family, you write down a memory and you clip it on the tree.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Mhm.
And, I think one thing, and I know you know this, but I just want to say it for anybody out there that is grieving the loss of someone, talking about her does help. Talking about the person who's died does help because she isn't someone who died by suicide. She is Riri. She is the
She
girl
is.
who dances in the hall and sings in the hall and does all that great stuff. And that's what people want to remember about her
Exactly.
and what you should remember about her. Well, I thank you so much for coming on. I know it
Thank
was
you.
nerve-wracking. I know you were nervous. Did we do okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I do want to say anyone watching this to please, if you're in crisis, to text 741-741. It is a crisis hotline. They're there for you. If you don't get someone that you connect with, hang up and call it again because you will get someone that you connect with. Safety plans are really important. If anyone's ever talked to you about a safety plan, please, get one and put it on your phone. You put your doctors on there. You put 3 people you can trust. And you put things that you would miss so that if you're going through something, you can look at that and know where the struggle is. So thank you, Sarah, for being part
Thank
of our
you.
chat today.